Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining. I'm really excited to be able to present to you tonight what my Property Circles is all about, answer your questions, discuss how this can benefit yourself, your family, and your future financial plans. My name is Jo Vadillo, and I am one of the hosts for tonight's webinar. A little bit about myself. I am one of the board directors of my Property Circles, and very proudly so. I'm also a property buying expert and property strategist, and my business, Advocate Property Services, purchases property for investors and homeowners all across Australia. I'm also the managing director of Property Women. I'm very passionate about this. It's an education platform that educates women in all realms of properties. So that's from whether you're renovating, subdividing, buying your very first house, perhaps you're building your first family home. So that's a little bit about me. So tonight I am joined with Nicola Mills. She's the founder of my Property Circles. Nicola's a very accomplished businesswoman, and amongst the many claims to fame, she's been featured in the BRW Fast 100, also been on Smart Company's 8 Entrepreneurs to Watch list, as well as being featured as one of Australia's top 50 female entrepreneurs. Nicola, welcome. Thank you very much for joining tonight.
Hey Jo, very, very happy to be here, and it's exciting to see so many people joining us tonight.
Very, very exciting. So, I mean, my Property Circles has sort of semi-launched at a really, we couldn't have timed it any more, I suppose, from a global front, more complicated than what it is. But look, I think, you know, many people, and I know a lot of people in my community with property women, are using this time to get educated, get themselves together, reviewing. I mean, they're spending time and educating themselves on webinars as well. They're using this time to get stuff together for the other side of COVID, the other side of quarantine. And it's a really good time to look at your finances, get your income tax returns done. I mean, I imagine there's probably a bit more spare time up your sleeve on weekends because you're not out and about. It's a time to look to be optimistic and how you're going to utilize this time and moving forward with plans. And we'll go into that a little bit more about how this platform can actually help you get ahead as well. And it really speaks to people that they want to invest in property, but it's very hard to come up with that 10 to 20% deposit that's required to really start investing. It's also for people who want multiple properties. So if you want to build a portfolio for yourself, then that means you might have a really decent percentage share of a number of different properties and not have all your eggs in one basket, which is a mistake that a lot of investors also do make. It speaks to people who are looking to, well, how they're going to use their super fund. And whilst we're not here to give you advice on how to use your super, it certainly is something for you to explore and do some more due diligence around that with your financial advisors. And it's also a perfect platform for people who want someone else to do the heavy lifting for them and all the hard work when it comes to property buying, because property buying is more than just sitting on real estate and domain and sifting through the properties. But who doesn't love doing that anyway? It's a lot of fun. I mean, I think that's why property is such a part-time sport for many people in Australia. Now, my Property Circles, I'm going to defer to Nicola in a minute, because she started this business as somebody who was investing in a circle herself. And with that, she learnt trials and obviously tests and the challenges, and made this a foolproof platform for other people like myself and like my other clients and some of the people within my community to start to build up their own portfolios themselves. It's about how you start, how to start a circle, how we help you coordinate all the experts and assist you. It's like a joint venture done for you structure. So Nicola, I might hand over to you, given that you've got this history. And what I'd love you to also share is how this even came about in your own journey.
Yeah, so my Property Circles really started from a need, which a lot of people have, which is I didn't have enough deposit to buy my own property, but I wanted to have a long-term strategy and build some wealth and investment and retire with ongoing income. And I thought property is one of the ways I want to do that. But I faced what others face, which is I didn't have a big enough deposit. So at the time, I went around and asked a few friends and said, hey, do you want to come and start a buy some properties with me, we can pool our money, get that deposit together, and we can buy a property. And look, if we do that every year, we might be able to buy a property every year. So that's what we did. We went and saw a really great lawyer and accountant at the time. They set up a really good structure for us. And mainly we set up that structure at the beginning to make sure that my problems didn't become someone else's problems and my friends' problems didn't become my problems. So we set up the structure, we pooled our money, and we bought our first property actually up on the Central Coast, which we call the Shack. But we were away, and in that original property group, I think we've got 5 properties in that group now, and we're now just sitting on that circle, and we're just letting the rent pay down the mortgages, and that's doing really, really well for us. Now the biggest decisions are, you know, what are we going to do? Are we going to renovate or develop, or whatever we're going to do? So that's how it started for me, and I was going to keep it private and to myself. But over the years, I had a number of other friends approach me and say, hey, can we come into your property group? It looks like it's working really well. And I said, no, I'm happy. We've got 5 people in that group. I'm really happy with the number we've got. We get to share the cost. We've had situations where we've had to buy, update a kitchen or change the deck. And I think our biggest cost we ever had one year was about $10,000. Now, if I'd been doing that on my own, $10,000 was a lot. Because it was 5 of us, it was about $2,000 each. So it was fine. And I also use my self-managed super fund, which Joe, you talked about earlier. That's not for everybody. And again, you do need to go and talk to your financial planner about it. But it works really well for me, because when I use my self-managed super fund, the money doesn't come out of my day-to-day savings. It doesn't come out of my income. And super is a long-term investment, and buying property for me is a long-term investment. So that's how we did it.
Yeah. Can you give us, I mean, if I can ask you to share a screen and break down what it looks like as a circle, and how that structure, how you'd work with that, how you work with your friends or family, and a little bit perhaps, you know, about your own journey about having a circle and buying multiple properties over a series of years.
Yeah, okay. So I'll take you to this screen here. I might have to make it a little bit smaller. Hopefully everyone can see it. So essentially this is a property circle here, where I used, you know, as a little property group when I started. We now call them property circles. And so we've bought 5 properties in this. I'm just going to add a little property here. We've bought 5 properties in our property circle. And that's shared amongst my friends here. So we're members of this property circle. And so what happened when I first went out to my friends and said, hey, do you want to come? So some of my friends said, oh, Nick, you know, I've got a bit of spare cash, and some friends didn't have very much. So that was fine. We didn't actually have to go in equally. We all put in different amounts of money. And what's happened over the years is that some people, Callie, for instance, here, she could put money in for the first property, but her life circumstances changed and she couldn't put money in for the properties after that. That's okay. That was okay, because all that happened is, I mean, you might start off, and I've brought out the wrong circle, the wrong pie, but I'll bring out the other one so you can see here. So you might start off here, for instance, all putting in an equal amount of money so that you can buy that first property. Or alternatively, you can do this one over here, where some of you might put in a little bit and some of you put in a bit more. And so what happened over the years with Callie is that she couldn't put any money in after that first property. But that was okay. All that happens is that Georgia, Jenna, Felicity, Colin, myself, we all ended up with a bigger piece of this pie. It was fine for Callie. She was still in. She's still getting the benefit of you know, 5 properties. And what's happened now in the last year or so is that Callie's life circumstances have changed again, and she's got more funds coming in. She's starting to put some more money back into the property circles to build up her share of the pie. In fact, she's now looking to invest in some other property circles to catch up for those years where life is a bit thinner for her.
Yeah. Which happens to everybody, right? Like, it's just circumstantially, you could be taking time out to study again, or having a baby, or whatever circumstance it is. So just to get the story, Kelly was on board 100%, and then circumstantially she had to lighten up the next couple of years.
Yeah. So, I mean, with the property circles, it's a expectation that you'll come in and put money in each year to buy a new property, but it's not an obligation. And the best thing about My Property Circles for us is that we've been flexible with one another. If we couldn't put money in 1 year, that was fine. And when you think about it, that very first year that we went in, you know, someone needs, and I'm talking about all your costs, your deposits, your conveyancing, all the costs kind of for your first year to buy, you know, what we call a startup circle costs you about $160,000. That's hard for a lot of people to come up with. But like I said, if you can each come up with, you know, whatever you can do and put that in. And look, we've got, you know, I've got, I'm showing 6, and with Holly 7 people, 6 people here. You could have 10 people in a circle and it's 16,000 each. You can have 20 people in a circle at 8,000 each. Or you might have circles where someone might put in, you know, you might have a rich friend, you can put in $100,000, and then the rest of you might put in 10,000 each. You know, it really is up to you how you want to do it. You talk to your family and friends, and you do what you can do. And I'm just going to kind of take you back to this pie here again. All that means is that you'll end up with, you know, a smaller piece, and some people might end up with a bigger piece, but you're on the property ladder. You know, you're starting to build some equity and wealth, and you've got started. So instead of waiting 5 years to save up that deposit, or 10 years, or, I mean, some people can't ever save, you know, enough of that deposit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So like, I mean, the 100,000, you know, it could be a rich friend, it could be parents that want to get their kids started. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it could be someone that's got, here's some money from Nana's estate, I'm going to buy this, and the 3 kids can all jump in and have a share of that. You know, there's so many different formulas that this could work for. But could you just talk a little bit about the structure of the property circle, and just explain a little bit perhaps about the unit trust and company? Because I know that was a question that has come up previously when we've been speaking to people, and just sort of explain a little bit about that.
Yeah, look, I think what's really important is that I think a lot of people over time have talked about, you've probably been out for drinks or lunch, or you've talked about with friends, hey, why don't we buy some properties together? And the problem with that, a lot of people go and they go and put their names on the actual title of the property here. And what can happen is that if there is a problem and someone goes through a divorce or something happens, this house kind of gets attacked, and you don't want that to happen. If someone goes through a divorce or an issue here, and I'll say, you know, there were some people in our group that went through some relationship trials and tribulations. All that means is that you sell off the units that sit in the property circle, and the houses, which is the most important thing, these houses stay safe. Sorry, try to make that a little green one. So they stay safe. What happens is that if you need to exit for whatever reason, you go and sell your units out of the property circle here. You know, for example, I might sell my units up to Kelly, or Kelly might sell her units down to Felicity, whatever it might be. You can get your units out, but the main thing is that the homes stay safe for everybody, and someone else's problems don't become your problems. And that has stood the test of time for us.
You're mitigating your risk, isn't it? So if you're just to make sure I understand that. So Kelly, when Kelly's in and she's taken a couple of years out, then she might be able to come back in year 4 and start to build up again. Whilst her percentage share is a little lighter, she does still have a genuine seat at the table for each of those properties. So I guess that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. You're building wealth as you go, as opposed to if you were to, you know, like sit there and try and save the deposit. By the time you've saved the deposit you need, the market's probably already moved on, and now you need to save more. You need to go and talk to that rich friend. We all wish we had that rich friend. So, you know, you might need to go and do those things. But with the property circle, if you can put in what you can afford this year and next year, if you go to your financial advisor and you can do a self-managed super fund, fantastic. If not, you can do it out of your cash. But you put in what you can put in. Now you might need to put a few more friends in, or less. And some years you can put in less, and so it doesn't really matter. The property circles are flexible for that. The main thing is you've got started, you're in the property market, you're starting to build some wealth. And, you know, with our, and I'm going to talk about risk for a minute here too, Joe. With our 5 properties, No, I'll come back to it, actually. I'm going to come back to it when we talk about experts.
Okay, yeah.
I know there's a few questions coming through.
Yeah. I was say that.
So we'll come back to that.
We'll come back to that. But if anyone does have questions, jump on the chat. I'll obviously throw that to Nicola, and then if it hasn't been answered, we've got an opportunity to ask questions at the end as well. So, Nicola, I'll hand back over to you.
Yeah, so what I was going to talk about there is the other thing that we do to protect people in these property circles and to make it as safe for you as possible is that we surround you with experts. So we have a group of experts here that we bring in. We have a circle manager. Actually, our circle manager for property circles is one of the original investors in that property group with me all those years ago. So she knows the ins and outs of running a property circle really, really well. She's our circle manager. And then she coordinates the accountant, the lawyer, the mortgage broker, the property buyers, Joe, your property managers, your bookkeepers, even your insurance. And we put insurance there because you've probably heard in the news about tenants not paying their rent and what happens there. So if you've got a good insurance partner and you have landlord insurance, you can get through most of that without being, feeling unscathed. So we have a group of experts that we surround there, and they come in and make sure that property circle runs effectively, efficiently, and we're maximizing our returns. And one of the most important people in there is the property buyer. And I will talk about that. That's probably one of the key changes that we made from my original property group. We didn't use property buy when we first did it. We just go, oh, that looks pretty, we'll buy that. So what happened was that we had some really good success with about 3 properties, and then and then the next property we bought was great. If we'd had a property buyer for that little property here, that probably wouldn't have happened. So property buyers are pretty critical to making sure that you get the right property at the right place. And Joe, I know you're going to speak about that a bit more. But the key thing with the property circle is because even if we have one here that's only breaking even for us, because these other ones are doing so well and making us money, it means that the risk or the hurt is minimized. Because you've got all these other ones to rely on.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's one of the biggest detriments to investors when they do purchase a property that tends to be in a market that's, doing them no favors. It holds them back sometimes half a decade or more to go forward, and that's detrimental in a working life when you're able to borrow money and all the rest. So it can really hold you back. So I guess you're sharing the burden of the bad properties, the blessings of the good properties, but you're not beholden to any of them 100%. So it really...
Yeah, and I'll talk about like a worst case scenario. I'm just going to give myself a bit of room here. Like, let's say that one of these properties, someone says, we're not going to pay our rent. We're not going to pay it for 6 months. And you think, oh, that's maybe a $20,000... That's a $20,000 pain there, right? I should have done that in red. But $20,000 divided by 5 of you is about $4,000 each. And really, over a 6-month period, you can probably handle that. But if you were hit with a $20,000 bill as an individual, that really starts to hurt. Yeah. The other good thing, though, is because you have these other properties that are bringing in rent, they'll probably pay for that anyway. And it probably wouldn't come out of your pocket. So look, that's when you've got 5 properties that you have there. If it's in the first year, you've only got 1 property, obviously you're more at risk. But each year that you buy another property, you're mitigating your risk, you're building your your portfolio, you're building your equity. By the time, and I'm going to use a little rainbow one here if I can, if it works for me. By the time we bought those this 3rd property here, we used the equity in the first 2 properties to buy that 3rd property.
Yeah, fantastic. One of the questions that's popped up is about whether, as a My Property Circle member, can you actually live in the house?
Absolutely. So, yeah, you might have, say, Kelly here. She might say, hey, look, things aren't going so well for me. I'd like to, and I want to live in a place. So Kelly can come on down. Oh, my pen didn't work. Kelly can come on down, and she probably doesn't want to live in that house. She probably might want to live in that house. Kelly can become the tenant. And the great thing about that is that Kelly now, even if she has a small percentage up here in this pie chart again, at least now when she's paying rent, she's paying it to something that she owns. And even if it's only that she partly owns it, doesn't matter. Now it's just not dead rent. It's just not rent just going to a landlord. She's actually the landlord too. So I think those people will make better tenants.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, completely. And it also, well, I think that's probably a really awesome segue for us just to discuss Bricks for Chicks. And I know you've got Holly on there. Can you sort of speak a little bit about what that program is and how, and I guess how you initiated that idea?
Yeah, so my Property Circles, the company really came about because, I mean, I had my property group. We were happy with that. Like I said, we were buying our properties every year. It was working well for us. And I didn't really need to turn it into a business. But my friend's husband passed away and left her with 2 girls under 10 and, you know, in fairly dire straits. Anyway, I was working through that with her, obviously spending a lot of time with her and talking to her. And I said to her at the time, hey, why don't we start a property circle together? And we can start building some wealth for not just you, but for your girls, so that, you know, over the course of 5, 10, 15 years, however long you want to do it for, we can at least, if we don't end up with a property each for your girls, we can at least end up with that deposit that they need to buy their own properties. But it's a great way for you to get on the property ladder. Because the thing here is that when Holly lost her husband, she lost the confidence of the banks, because now she's a single mum, dependent kids, working part-time. They won't lend to her. She's basically locked out, and that's incredibly frustrating. And when I looked around at you know, friends and family and people that work for me, sisters, and there were so many women in that position. So I was like, well, how can we help? And so that's where Bricks for Chicks was born, and that's where we offer dollar for dollar match funding. So if, for instance, Holly, she could actually come up with $5,000. So we're giving her another $5,000. It's a small loan, but she doesn't have to pay that back. A property circle runs for about 5 years. There's a break point here. This is where you start. This runs for 5 years. So Holly can access this money. She gets a seat at the table. She gets her percentage here of the property circles. You go ahead and you buy a property every year. She can be a part of that. At the end of the 5 years, she then pays that loan back to Bricks for Chicks. But she doesn't have to worry about it for 5 years. She waits till these, you build up those properties, you sell the properties at the end, whatever profit she makes, she pays that money back at the end. So now Holly has a seat at the table. Holly can become a tenant if she wants to of one of these properties, and she's away. She started. She's, it doesn't matter what the banks think now.
Yeah,
she's on the property ladder. She's on the way.
What this doesn't even show is what that means for someone like with her story, which is losing a partner to passes away at a young, in the early 40s age bracket is unusual, but a lot of people find themselves with scenarios where they've got a partner who's sick and unable to work, their marriages fall apart. You've got a couple of children. For many women, the situation is that they've put education or life or advancing their career on hold to be parents. So like you say, the banks aren't that interested in them when it comes around to saying, hey, I want to live in this area. And they're like, we're not going to lend you that kind of money. So this gives an opportunity for them just to build up their self-confidence and self-worth. That passes down to their children and the way their children see their parent, their mother sort of, I guess, just being back at, like being a genuine player, and it builds up that confidence. But it also, especially for someone like Holly, she can then become a tenant in a property she owns a percentage of, but it could be in an area that she wants to raise her family. They've been there for a number of years, but I guess economically it doesn't make sense anymore, but this gives her still, she's a genuine homeowner in that location.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. It's so important. Otherwise she's stuck, and she's stuck for the next 10 years, and she can't get ahead, and she just can't move. So it's a way of, getting unstuck, getting on the property ladder, starting to build some wealth for you and your kids. I mean, and that's why, so really that's where my property circle started, because Bricks for Chicks members go in with the other people in my property circles. And look, for the other people here, they don't mind that Holly's access at Bricks for Chicks fund. She's still putting cash in. She's still a very valued member of this property circle. She's very welcome to come on in. And hey, look, and the other members feel great about that. They're helping her too. Well, you're all helping each other. The main thing, you're all helping each other get started, get going, buying these properties.
For sure. One other question that did pop up is, can you choose whether properties will be bought? And look, I'm happy to answer that, in that absolutely is the answer. You know, if you and your friends wanted or have intended to buy a property in Newcastle or the Gold Coast, or you can start a property circle around your idea and the location you want to be. On the flip side, you might just be somebody who has got a little bit of a nest egg, knows that they want to buy property, comes to my property circles. We have some circles established where we're actually looking for people just to finalize those numbers. And what we look for when we do research, and we work with Ripe House to do research on those, on the areas that indicate high growth, a high rental demand, the utopia with genuinely high yield. I assist with the business to make sure they buy the right property in the right area. And we're not speculative. It's all about numbers. It's capital cities or major regional hubs that have got multiple employment opportunities there as well. And so it's a bit of a flip side. You know, you can either join a circle that's about to buy a property, and it's all about removing emotion from that decision, buying with purely numbers as your basis to start that circle. Or if you were interested in buying a property, you have a couple of friends that, I know one of the questions we've had previously was about renovation, and people wanted to buy into a property they could all renovate together. So that's absolutely an equation that would work. And towards the end of the webinar, I'll share contact details so you can actually speak to one of us directly about what your journey might be, because it could be that you want to do a small development. It could be that you want to get a house with your siblings to put your parent in, so there's many different ways that this could actually work in your favor. Nicola, do you mind if I steal that screen back off here?
Steal away.
So as long as I don't break the internet in the process. Let me just see that there. So we did advertise that tonight, if you were to start a property circle, that we're providing a $500 kicker to yourself towards that first circle. So if it is you and 4 friends or 3 friends or whatever your scenario, that's $500 each towards the circle. So it's a really generous start if this is something that has got your attention, you'd like to talk more to it. And what I will do, if I will just quickly touch on this, because my property circles is fully automated, and we've got people there, but you've mentioned the circle manager that helps and assists during that journey through. But what we're legitimately looking at here is your properties and the back end with property management. Is that correct?
Yeah. So what we are building with my property circles is it's all going to go online. It's real time. So if you're in a circle with other friends, you can get on there. You can go and have a look at the properties. You can see the rent coming in. You can see if any vacant, is repairs and maintenance. We're working with, so all the partners and experts we're working with, we kind of interviewed them about how far ahead are you with technology and automation, and we want to make this as easy and as simple and as seamless as possible for everybody that comes into a property circle. And transparency is the key, so that everybody can go in and see the properties. We'll be using Xero. Go in and see your profit and loss, your properties. You can see everything that's going on in live, real time as it happens. So your Bonza is one of the partners that we work with. They're doing a fantastic job. I personally have got my own property circle with them, and they look after the properties for us. They do it very efficiently. They do all the inspections, and they do it cheaply as well, because they've automated. It makes easy for everyone. So all our partners that we're working with are we're trying to find people who are cutting edge and you know, are really pushing the boundaries and making the customer experience a really good one.
Okay, so we've just had one other question that pops in that I will just interrupt now just to ask or answer myself, if you like. Just asking if it's only for women, and if so, can it be for both men and women? Yeah, so the answer to that is absolutely, it's open to everybody. I think with the female skew was more touching on the Bricks for Chicks program, which was a program, as you know, to look towards supporting women who are in that space that do need a bit of a leg up. I think that's probably the best way of defining that, Nicola. I'm sorry if you want to add to that.
No, absolutely. Look, yeah, Bricks for Chicks is only for the girls, and it's for people whose life circumstances. Well, and I call it the 4 Ds, whether it's been a death or a divorce or disease or domestic violence. Sometimes life just throws you curveballs, and you just need some help, or you just want to keep moving ahead. Like, you might have something that's hit you. It might even be coronavirus and unemployment, whatever it might be. But that doesn't mean that you don't, you know, it can stop you from actually still building your wealth, moving ahead, and taking a long-term view on it. But my property circles themselves, yeah, the boys can come in there too. They're welcome. They're welcome.
You've already got a circle that's all male anyway, haven't you? Like people who are bunches of guys that have come together and
yeah, that's true. Yes, we have got some construction guys that have come in. They're starting a property circle that is all boys. And they're actually guys that are traveling all the time interstate. So they said, instead of paying rent to someone else, why don't we buy a property? And then when we travel down there to do our work, we'll stay in the place. And Joe, you might want to talk about that kind of, well, there's a dual key property here and what they're doing with it, how they're creating their property circle. Beautiful timing.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that, yeah, the properties that we present, as I've mentioned, they're in good areas. There's a lot of growth. There's a high demand for the properties and the type of properties that we're looking for. And what we really wanted to achieve is a combination of that good yield and being able to get, you know, decent rent there, as well as the area growth. So this is on the left. We've got Adelaide Semaphore, you know, perfect little neat little cottage there, and the yield is 5.2%. So from a price point, we're talking very much tonight sort of in that sub 550 price range, but there's nothing to say that you couldn't expand on this. But we are just speaking to these sort of startup circles, because it certainly means, from a number perspective, that many people can jump on board with their super, with their savings, and start legitimately, you know, in the next day or so, to actually start their own circle. On the right hand side, dual key property in the Moreton Bay area of Brisbane. It's an awesome location. The area is actually running out of land, which is good. It's what a dual key is. There's 3 bedrooms on one side and 1 bedroom on the other. It's like, technically it's an annexed granny flat that's underneath the same roof. But there the yields are strong because you've got 2 sides. And I mean, this is the perfect equation for somebody who might have a tenant that's struggling a little bit with the rent on one side, but the other side's buffering it up. You never have both sides empty at the same time. So they're just a couple of examples of circles that you can jump in straight away on. Perhaps you're just looking at a house and land package. You know, this could be perfect for somebody who might be just wanting to have like a neat little set and forget. Brand new property, North Harbour. Again, it's Brisbane, 5.3% yield. On the right-hand side, we're looking at Newcastle. This is actually a corner block. I love the corner blocks where you can do something with the rear of the yard. So it could be to build a granny flat or a freestanding home, or it could be just a set and forget, and what we call, Nicola, land banking. So a lot of investors want a land bank, and if you're in a circle, perhaps you just hang on to this for 2, 3, 4 years, and then maybe you do then have that position to do something with the equity, and then bring that money back to your first property and build the granny flat. And the reason I love the corner blocks is that granny flat would face another street to the main house, and it just gets a higher rental yield as a result of that. Now I can see sorry.
I was just going to add to that too. And what can happen, you know, I talked about that shack that we've got up on the Central Coast. I mean, we could do $100,000 renovation there. There's 5 or 6 of us in there. That's only going to cost us $15,000, $20,000, and we'll probably add, you know, $500,000 of value to the property. So being in it together, you can share the costs. You don't get those big bill shocks that if you're doing it on your own. Because if you do get a big bill shock, you divide it by 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of you, how many come in, makes it so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just have a quick look at this other question that's popped in. So the question was, do I find the properties for you? So yes and no could be the answer to that, because there could be a property that you've already got your eye on, in which case you don't need the involvement of a property buyer, or we could come on to help you with the negotiations and analysis of the property. So I think that's just something to be mindful of when you're buying property. We can either give you the full service or I guess a condensed version of that. And a lot of people will use an expert when they sell a property, but not use an expert when they buy one. So, that's something that you can absolutely contact My Property Circles and discuss for your own personal scenario. It could be that it's a home that's been in the family for many years, and you're looking to perhaps take over the mortgage and share that with other family members because you want to keep it. Things like, especially those lifestyle properties where there's a family farm and things like that. So that's definitely a scenario that we've heard about before as well. Here's just an overview of the partners that we work with. These are really wonderful professional experts that we've got lots of testimonials. I personally work with most of these people one-on-one. Nicola, you're already using your Bonza and you've used Law Lab. We do all the bookkeeping, the financial advice, everything is provided. And also,
yeah, yeah, my original circle uses most, if not all, these people on here, and we've tested them. They're doing a great job, so we are highly recommending them for property circles. The main thing is they're really passionate about My Property Circles, and they're passionate about the Bricks for Chicks program. Like I said, they are innovative, and they're doing and I'll go back to your Bonza again. I think you pay like $100 a month and you get full service, and you're paying 2 or 3 times that with other property managers. So they're just disrupting the way that things are getting done and making it better for you and I. So yeah, these guys are very strong, all good at what they do. Zippy Financial Group there. I mean, she's won so many awards. I can't even count how many she's won. Gets exhausting just reading the bottom of her thing. So, but very good at what they do. So we've got a good bunch of people to help.
Yeah,
to help.
Absolutely. Look, I'll throw it for questions now. So by all means, if you've got some questions, put it up in the Q&A or the chat box. What I will say to buying property, especially if you're new to investing, or perhaps you haven't bought one for some time, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of moving parts when you buy a property, and you could be talking to multiple vendors, agents. You want to make sure that your finance is ready. You've got to have contracts reviewed. You've got to put the negotiations on the table, which is very intimidating for some people. And that's where My Property Circles does this for you. It's a done for you service. And as that question came up earlier, if you are a mortgage broker or your brother's a mortgage broker, we can almost fine tune your circle to suit your needs as well. So I'll just grab that question.
Dean's come up with a question. With the current situation, is it the right time to invest? If it's okay, I'll answer that one. Joe, you there?
Yeah. Sorry, go for it.
It is the right time to get ready to invest. So right now, if you have a group of friends or you want to join a circle, now is the time to get that together, put the circle together and be ready to pounce, because there are opportunities coming up and you want to be ready to jump on top of them. So the work we do with the property circles, when we get you together, one of the first things we talk about is, what are you trying to achieve? You agree on that up front, so that you know what the circle's purpose is, what properties you're going to buy, what you're looking for, what you're trying to achieve. We set up the structure, we do all that hard work for you, and then we wait for those opportunities, and that's where Joe and Ripe House Advisory come in. They look at the data, they look at the opportunities, and when there's one available, and sometimes they're off market before they even go to market, we can jump on them because you're ready to go. So is it the right time to invest? I would say get prepared and get ready to invest, because the opportunities are coming.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Another question just in, Jennifer has asked, I don't work, would that inhibit me borrowing in the circle?
No, that's the beauty of the property circles. So this is where my property circles helps as many people as you can. So if you're not working at the moment, that's fine. Other people in your property circle will be working, and that's what the banks will look at. So essentially there's 4 key things that banks look at. They look at equity, they look at income or serviceability, they check whether you're an Australian citizen, and they look at your credit score. The banks need to tick those 4 boxes. That doesn't all have to come from one person. That can come from a number of people in the property circle. So if you can't tick all those 4 boxes, that's okay. There'll be somebody else in your circle that does. And when we put your property circle together, we make sure that you have a complete circle, that there's someone with income, equity, citizenship, and what was the last one? A good credit score. So we put that together. I think there's this character test that's coming out now, but I'm not quite sure how they're going to test that. But that's the new thing that they're talking about. But the whole idea of you coming together with your family and friends is that between you, you'll get through that bank. You'll get through, and you can pass go.
Yes, importantly, Pascal. So if we get any other questions coming in, let's have a quick look. No, I think we might have covered enough. What I might just share though, if you do have questions, by all means, just pop that in. This is the contact details here. So you may want to sort of speak privately about your own personal circumstance, or if you've got an idea that we haven't touched on that, by all means, reach out and make contact. Follow us on Facebook. You can contact us through mypropertycircles.com website. And you've got info at mypropertycircles.com as well. If you want to put an email there, we can be onto that tomorrow for you, answering your questions, setting up a time that you can speak to Nicola directly or myself, especially if it's something to do with a particular property search. There's a promo code. So just remember, with this webinar and by watching this, if you make that purchase before the end of the financial year, which is June 30, 2020, we're contributing $500 per person. That's like you and your 5 best friends, we're talking $2,500. So it's not a bad starting point.
Absolutely.
Well, good. All right. Well, look, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who's joined us for the webinar. It's been really wonderful to share this story. But Nicola, more importantly, thank you so much for being, I guess, so generous with your knowledge and your journey as well. To, this is what's beautiful about this, is you've done half a decade worth of work behind the scenes here to know that it works, to have the stories and to be really transparent about the fact that, you got 4 great properties. One of them's been a bit lackluster, but you're back in the mix. You're doing it circles again. I've, certainly put my hand up to go forward myself with my own portfolio and be a circle member myself.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And yeah, it was great to see so many people on the webinar, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
And thank you for everyone on Facebook world as well. So have a good night. We'll be talking to you again soon, hopefully. Thanks, Nicola. Bye.